A lot of stuff I read, someone will claim this or claim that, and it doesn't, especially with math or music, and they'll say, well, this is this, and you put this note equals this planet. Well, how does A equal Saturn? I want to know.
Yes.
So more on my webpage, it shows how this, it shows exactly why it, because of maybe the diameter of the planet or whatever the case, it shows the work.
And okay, but tell us a little bit more about that then, because what you're saying is that there actually are, if we talk about the planets, for instance, that there is a clear relationship between the planets and the musical scale.
Just off the top of my head, I did a lot of with ago. Just off the top of my head, the distance between Earth and Mars is a major seventh. In fact, I could probably bring it up, but if you look at the website, I think it's 1.8 something, whatever the exact number is, it's on there. And it's, if you take, say, an A and you multiply it by that number, you get the major seventh, which is G sharp. It's to create a seventh chord. It's a very nice sounding chord. It's the difference between the two, I believe it's diameters. I'll have to look it up really quick. But if you look at, here it is, it's the diameter of Mars divided by the diameter of Earth, I believe, equals the major seventh.
Huh. Interesting.
Here it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. The revolution period of Mars divided by the revolution period of Earth equals an interval in music called the major seventh. So, yeah, there's absolutely, and that work has been before, in more past time, hundreds of years ago, about the planets being related to music, starting with Pythagoras, and then into other people doing it, but they never quite really could show the work. Again, they didn't have calculators, and they didn't get these high decimal numbers.
Yes, because if we talk about, what do they call it, the Musica Universalis, or the music of the spheres, right, the Kepler and so forth, they were talking about this connection, and I guess it was in that sense more in an esoteric type thing that they were trying to convey here, but what you're talking about is that there actually is a relationship then between the planets and the music, the intervals in the music. Yes,
there's a real relationship with real numbers that boggles the mind and makes you question, was this created? I mean, again, the whole universe is made of vibration and intervals and harmony. And, what did this happen by accident? Was this created by a god or higher being? Definitely, yes. I'm looking at another thing on this page between just the sun and the moon. They're exactly, I think it's 1/400th difference in their diameters. That's what creates a lunar eclipse. Mm-hmm. So that could not occur. We could not have that, be able to see a lunar eclipse, unless these diameters were these precise numbers, almost as if something created it all.
Yes, exactly.
It could be coincidence. It could be just the way nature is, the way the universe is constructed. But again, now that could be just created by random, but then, how did the humans or whoever did this grid, were they able to calculate this and map this? It's impossible unless there was an advanced, highly technically advanced civilization before us, or possibly beings from another world or another planet.
Or, I've been thinking a little bit about it, and one concept or one idea that might fit into all this is the fact that if humans back then were in a way kind of more connected with nature and kind of more in tuned than, if to use a pun, I guess, more in tune with how this structure, this grid, this field, the frequency of the planet, etc. There's a number of words we can use to describe this, but what I'm referring to is the fact that when they were building their monuments, it might actually have been in some way that they were just operating on their more kind of on their intuitive level, meaning that when they were building the monuments and the placing of them kind of automatically took place at these specific sites, and even the relationship between them, because they were in tuned more with nature, and the fact that we now, as we progress kind of forward in technology and whatnot, we're in a way kind of becoming a little bit more disconnected from it all, if you follow my train of thought there.
I think you're 100% correct. I mean, they did not have television sets and telephones and all that back then, and they were much more in tune with nature. Look at the Native American Indians, who their whole philosophy is nature and Father Sky and Mother Earth, and absolutely the ancients were far more advanced than us as far as being in tune with nature. They did not have all these distractions, and today we have traffic and cars and airplanes, and like I said, and TV, and it's very easily to get distracted. Plus, they had thousands and thousands of years. These astronomer priests were able to hand down this information from generation to generation for thousands of years, and over thousands of years, sure, you could probably figure a lot of this stuff out, maybe even without calculators. So again, maybe it's just the ancients were more in tune than us, or had more years to study it. I mean, you got to look. This has been maybe 100 years or so of a more advanced age, industrial age, and
yes.
now the computer age and information age, and so this is really a short amount of time. I mean, who knows? Another 100 years from now, what we're going to find out, and that's what I think is really important, to keep an open mind and know that nothing has really been discovered yet. I mean,
exactly.
I think we're going to find out a lot of our potential with, they called it ESP in the 70s, with telekinesis and precognition and those types of things that we just haven't figured out yet. But we will. I mean, this is all a very short amount of time that we've had computers and all this technology. So if they could do it then with nothing, and without even inventing the wheel yet, and they constructed these pyramids, I mean, it's pretty amazing. However, who knows? Maybe they had help.
Yes.
Either way, it's there.
It's there.
They've stood the test of time.
Yes.
These monuments are still there and still a puzzle.
Indeed. And I mean, that kind of a little bit, I guess, leads us into the fact we were talking about the modern age, so to speak, that we're becoming a little bit more untuned. But you have another kind of fascinating area that we briefly mentioned before that has to do with the chakras, and even tuning of the chakras, that we can actually think of the human body as an instrument, if you will, and that the body needs to be in tune now and then in order to function well, to play well, however we want to look at it. And I guess there's different techniques for this, but I know that you tried this once. I don't know if you kept up with it or not, but allegedly it was a kind of interesting experience. Isn't that right?
Yeah. I met this guy named Jedediah, again, through sort of a strange experience how I met him. And he is still an expert in chakra tuning, and especially with using tuning forks and crystals. He's been doing it a long, long time, and the stuff that he does works, and he does it professionally. He tunes chakras, and he goes from house to house and does this thing, and he has a quite extensive collection of stones, of rose quartz, and all sorts of special crystals, which crystals are resonators for sound. Anyways, when he met me, I suggested, because all his tuning forks were tuned to 440 and the standard, right?
Yes.
So, of course, I suggested, hey, could you have a fork or forks specially made tuned to 432? Well, it took them time, and I think months later he calls me up and says, look, I have two forks, one in 144 and one in 432, a D and an A. And I haven't used them yet, and I want you to be the first person I try it out on. So I'm like, okay, sure. And what happened is really strange. It kind of comes full circle to how, remember I said I got into this through dreaming and lucid dreaming?
Yes.
And astral projection, those types of subjects. Well, so he does his normal chakra tuning on me. And this was one of the most strangest experiences I've ever had. All of a sudden, I was out of my body while I was awake. I was not asleep, okay? You don't really go to sleep when they do these chakra tunings. You just lie there relaxed in sort of a meditative state. I was all of a sudden out of my body. I was across a few hundred feet away, and I could see my body, and I was out of my body, and I was awake. So I was in maybe in my mind, or whatever you want to call it. I was in two places at once. And I could hear these woo, the sound from the tuning fork. He strikes them and then puts it on the stone, and it goes woo, and it vibrates through the stone into your chakra points. So when he was finished, I told him, I said, "Oh my God, I went out of my body. I wonder if this has to do with the new forks." So that's the result. I never filmed that or anything. That's just something I'm just telling you. But
Yes.
on the DVD, he gives a demonstration in the part 2. He gives a demonstration of his method of tuning chakras, and he does it on somebody else in that. And I'm not even sure if he used the 432 forks or not, but it shows his method, how he does it, and all that. So sure, for well-being or peace of mind or tuning, I'm not that knowledgeable about the chakras. I've read a little bit on it. But I do know that that frequency caused a different result, because I had it done to me before, just in the regular tuning, had my chakras tuned, and I got basically a very peaceful feeling and very relaxed, and I felt, a little more in tune and all that. But with the different tuning forks, it caused a much different result. And I must sort of put a slight warning out there, as anyone that wants to experiment with this stuff, be very careful, because sound is a very powerful thing.
Yes.
And you don't want to, mess up your chakras either, or break your tape decks, like I was saying earlier. So
Right.
always kind of be careful. I have, always been very cautious and careful, because I realize the power of sound, and even the power of just studying this stuff sometimes can, make you go a little nuts or get obsessed with it, and it's always good to take breaks, and that's why, like I said, I'm on a nice 7-year break from this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's...
Yeah, the chakra tuning is fascinating.
Yes, indeed, and I think it's good, as you mentioned. This needs to have, one needs to have perspective on these things as well, and it's a form of balance in these subject matter as well. You need to operate in the world and still have a spiritual component. So we're juggling back and forth, so to speak, between these worlds. But we're talking about the kind of the power of frequency, basically, and the fact that everything basically is a form of frequency. We can take it from the highest level, so to speak, if we talk about light, which basically is sound.
Yes,
but it's
light is a frequency.
Yes, exactly. And I think, didn't you even do some
Color.
Color, exactly. Tell us about that relationship with color as well.
Yeah, I have a whole page. It says color and music on my webpage, relating color and music. And I think I did a little more scientifically, maybe, than most people, because I read everything before this, that had come before. And again, they'll say, well, C is red. And it doesn't really show why or relate it to actual numbers. And it's been a long time for me, but if you read that, there's a formula to achieve it. I think it was frequency divided by wavelength. It's something like that. It's on the page where you can get actual real results. And what I found is that it's not that each individual note is the color, like, say, G is yellow and the D sharp is green. It's more that the color covers a wider range of notes than I had thought. I believe it's something like C, C sharp, D, and D sharp are all red, or in the red spectrum. And then it goes on from there, much like a prism or a rainbow. I mean, that's how the frequencies work, is when you look at a rainbow, and it's in order to the, or yellow, orange, red. It's in a particular order. And the reason it is because of the frequency. And these numbers of frequency create those particular colors.
One can kind of come away from the idea that there is kind of an occult thing going on beneath the surface here as well. If we even think of some of the etymology, so to speak, we call it keys, right? A keyboard when we strike the notes, and this is something that is opening up a frequency, basically. These are basically like doors. I mean, you were talking about astral travel or out of body experiences before. And do you think it's possible that these things are these keys? Because music can be hypnotic. It can put you in a trance. It can take you to another place. It's a means of traveling in a way, at least in your mind, if you follow my kind of train of thought there.
Absolutely. Never underestimate the power of music. I mean, look at, I mentioned the Beatles before, but let's say you go to a concert and there's a band and it's 4 people or 5 people up there, or even a whole orchestra, but then you have 20,000